All right, TikTak 12. Um, Shadow of the Colossus, which is one of the three Eco games. We saw Eco yesterday with Sancho Panda. The third game is The Last Guardian, which we do not have in this event, although we do have, or did have, oh my goodness, a raid. We did have Sable Dragonrook run a couple of other games. She runs The Last Guardian. So the Eco community very well represented in RIPDebt 1.5. But Shadow of the Colossus, very well-known game, beautiful game, great game, and TikTak is going to just absolutely demolish it for us. So TikTak, you take it from here, please.
Thank you very much. So first of all, before I start, I want to apologize ahead of time because I woke up with a sore throat, so hopefully my voice can keep up with this. And I guess I can do the countdown for the start, which would be 3, 2, 1, go. Not quite. Whatever. It's a bit of a different category, it's New Game Plus. And this changes a few things. For example, when the game starts, which I already kind of messed up a little. but yeah, Shadow of the Colossus. Your usual boss fighting game, where you fight 16 different colossi usually, to save a girl called Mono, who is Wander's girlfriend, the main character. He kind of did a pact with a devil-like creature, the dark god of this universe. And usually it would be 16 colossi, but this category, New Game Plus IMG, is very, very different from your usual Shadow of the Colossus speedrun. In the sense that, well, as you see at the bottom, I have full health and full stamina since it's New Game Plus, but that won't stay like that for that long, since we will be doing a bunch of glitches. This is a category that hasn't been seen too much in marathons. It's only been featured in Japanese ones, and I once did a run at UKSM. But it's fairly new compared to all the other categories, since heavy glitches are a rarity in this game. And this is the category, the only one where we will actually be able to skip full boss battles. So we won't be seeing all of the colossi, but only 9 of them. Starting up with the first one already, which is Valus, and this fight will look fairly normal as your usual New Game Plus playthrough will. The whole trick here is to activate the cutscene while hanging onto the side of his leg, and during this cutscene you're actually able to move. And I will use that to kind of jump on his face during the cutscene in a blind kind of way. New Game Plus deals a lot of damage, so that's a one-shot. So far so good, so far so normal, now will be the fun part. So what is IMG? IMG is a very weird glitch that some Japanese runners found, which uses the item menu to trick the game into thinking we are fighting 2 colossi at once. We will be doing that by praying to the statues, which are usually used for, you know, the New Game Plus achievements to fight the colossi individually. But obviously while you enter them, it's a fight. Now, if we enter them while in the item menu, this will make the game think we're actually fighting the Colossus in the overworld, even though we are fighting it in the time attack, which confuses the hell out of this game by basically killing the Colossus prior to the Colossus we fight. And we will start with Barba, which will basically, as I call it sometimes, pray away Avion, the Colossus before Barba. So we enter the item menu, and as you saw it, I did that while I was in the item menu. I will leave, and you will see that all the stamina and items and health are reset due to this, because the time attack always has the base stats, and this will be transferred into the overworld. And now we quit out of the game to not confuse it further, go back in, and this is the whole process of how we are able to skip half the Colossi. But we can't proceed quite yet, because now the game is confused, and if we went to the next Colossus it would crash. So we avoid that by... oops. Am I doing this right? It's kind of a tight timing on the item menu, so bear with me. There we go. So we are praying back on quad, so the game kind of normalizes. And this is the next Colossus we are going to fight, so we normalize it back to quad. And now the game is back in a state where we can continue, with the added difference that 2 Colossi will be killed, in this case, Avion and quad. Kind of confusing to think about all of this, but it will get even more confusing, because in the PS4 version of this game, the devs added a little extra thing you can do, which is collect little glints, gemstones, whatever you want to call them, little coins, and when you collect all the coins you can get the Dormant Sword, which I just picked up, because I collected the Dormant Sword already in this file and have all the glints collected. I can pick it up, and usually you would activate the little door there, go downwards all the steps to an altar to pick it up, but the game is basically like, alright, you actually are supposed to have the Dormant Sword, so I'm just going to give it to you on the entrance, which is very helpful since we lose all the items at each of those resets. I can pick up the Dormant Sword in a very convenient way to accelerate the fights. And all of this game is basically routed in this category around the ways I am praying away or resummoning the Colossi out of the game's memory, while getting or not getting the Dormant Sword depending on where the Colossi are. Here another little glitch, or exploit, whatever you want to call it, where we activate this cutscene from the top, so we can land on quad instead of doing the puzzle of, you know, shooting his legs, getting up on it, and so on. A little extra step, so we use a little bit of physics. Physics are usually like the main point of this game, and we will see a bunch of more physics manipulations. But since this game is so glitchy, I barely get to talk about all the quote-unquote usual speedrun strategies. But yeah, that's quad down, and you will see the next time I exit the game and go into the game that I killed 3 Colossi instead of 2 by doing this whole glitchy thing. So yeah, that's not too bad. 3 Colossi down, we will continue praying them away, but this time things will be a little different than usual. There's a twist upon a twist upon a twist with this whole route. We will start by praying on Kuromori, which will pray away Hydrus, one of the more difficult Colossi in the usual any percent, so I'm not too sad about that. Yeah, when the Japanese runners are doing this, they usually hit this little window first try. I sometimes need a couple more tries, since I'm not too used to this category, but it's a fun one to show off in marathons. A little bit shorter and adds a few glitches. So that's basically Hydrus down. Again, we will re-enter the game. And as you see, 3 Colossi down instead of 2. As shown on the thing. And the cutscenes also are a little different, because it thinks we are actually on Hydrus. But rather on Kuromori after defeating Hydrus. And now a little extra twist. I'm not normalizing the game on the statue. So that basically means as I would kill Gaius, the game would crash. But there's an extra thing in this game, which will make the whole Schrödinger's Colossus a whole thing now. So basically, you can refight the Colossi on the statues, but also in reminiscence mode on the Colossi corpses. And since the game is currently in a state where it thinks that Hydrus is dead, by definition, if Hydrus is dead, Gaius is also dead, because Hydrus is the 7th Colossus, Gaius is the 3rd, so you'd think you'd have to kill the 3rd one to get to the 7th eventually. But we only have killed Quad as the last Colossus, so at the same time, while Gaius is dead, he's also kind of alive in the overworld, and this is quite literally what will happen. We will enter the fight and see a dead Gaius and an alive Gaius at the same time, which makes this category as bizarre as it gets. And what we will do to make the game go back to normal again is pray away the Gaius corpse to reappear in the Gaius fight, so the game won't crash when I kill Gaius and counts the double Colossus kill. This category is also one that I actually need the notes for, not necessarily because I don't know what to do, but just so I can remind myself what Colossus to prey on, where to normalize, when to pick up the Dormant Sword, just because there's a lot of factors. And I remember when practicing this route for UKSM, I once accidentally preyed on the wrong Colossus, which made the game soft lock. Quite literally, when I entered the fight, the screen went dark and nothing could help it but restarting the whole game. So, another reason why, you know, it's probably late for most viewers. For Europeans, it's very early. It's 6:30 AM for me personally right now. So I definitely need the notes to make sure I don't mess up, and if I mess up, which I hopefully won't happen, I apologize in advance. This is quite a risky thing. And the category already, like Shadow of the Colossus on its own, is quite a tough game. Anyway, as you see, Gaius alive in the background while Gaius dead at the forefront. Now we will hopefully pray quick enough in the item menu to enter Reminiscence mode. And an added advantage of Reminiscence mode is that you don't actually lose your items, so we keep the Dormant Sword. So now we will reappear in the fight while it's going on, and I will trigger Gaius's animation here. Usually what you would see in most other runs would be a whole Space Jam fly to the head thing, but since the Colossus position is different here, unfortunately, we will have to do a little different version of that, which, yep, I made it happen. Ish. Okay, interesting. Usually Wander is supposed to grab on here, so maybe I can actually show the full-on sword launch. This was unfortunate. I kind of thought I was safe there. But this is the game of Shadow, like, you're never safe. The Colossi always go to mess up your runs. And there's no escape in any percent or New Game Plus runs, since you're quite literally in the fight and you can't reset it. So let's try this again. Maybe with a full launch, so there's a bit of action. Not quite. Yep. So the problem here was that what I think happened is that since Gaius stood with one foot on the platform, the whole animation doesn't work anymore, which makes me regret quite a bit that I didn't hit the strict first try, even though it was nearly perfect. But yeah, I'll try a third time. Whatever. I want to make something cool happen instead of going for a boring backup. We have time. It's early. There we go. And that's the whole launch. As you saw by the 2 earlier attempts, it's not as easy. But I made it happen. Now it's just about, you know, just trying Sigil 1. We will go right away to Sigil 2. And after a few hiccups, we're right back to the route. So, if you're keeping count, that's 1 Valus down, 1 Quad down, 1 Gaius down, so 3, with the added Avion and Hydrus being prayed away in the glitchy way. So overall 5 Colossi down. Now, since you saw I can normalize onto Colossi, you would ask yourself, why don't I just normalize myself onto Malice? to go straight to the last Colossi and end the game right away. That would be the fastest way. You could skip all the Colossi, but the problem is, as long as you don't have 15 defeated Colossi, you're let through the gate with the glitch, but Malice just isn't there. It's a big stationary Colossus that we will see later, so he's kind of like, you know, fixed to the ground, can't move. But if you try to glitch him early, he's just on vacation. So, fun fact, currently Malice is on vacation until we beat all the other Colossi. So, we are preying on Phalanx to get rid of... Oh, I didn't like that. To pray away what would be Pelagia, another good Colossi to get rid of. So, what determines what we pray away is basically what Colossi take the longest to complete. Most of the difficult ones are gone by default like that, but there's also a few difficult ones that are left in there still, just because they are faster to do. For example, Bassaran, we will see later. Even though he's quite tricky, he's just faster from the time it takes to get there. So, since we prayed away Pelagia now, we're going to Phaedra, and again here that's another case of the Schrödinger's Colossus. You will see quite a few cases of those. The reason why we do it on the corpses rather than on the statues is just that it's faster. When the corpses are already on the way, you don't have to turn back to the statues and come back forward. And in some cases, also preserving the dormant sword is quite advantageous. Like, for example, later on, right before Malice, we pick up the dormant sword, even though on its own it wouldn't be beneficial. But since we are not losing the dormant sword throughout the next fight, we can use that to our advantage. Phaedra is another cool Colossus, which evolved quite a bit throughout the history of the game. Speedrunning strategies. Here, there is an easy way and a hard way, and you know, since it's early and I want to entertain, I will go for the hard way first. And if it doesn't work out, I will try my best to do a good backup. I only get one chance at the hard way, because after that the whole lineup is messed up. That's another thing about these games. The lineups of the Colossi strats are dependent on the Colossi movement very often. So even if the Colossus is in a slightly different position, it can mess with the lineup, like von Gaius earlier, for example. Since I didn't do the full launch right away and so on, I couldn't quite get the full strategy working until after a few tries, when the lineup was more beneficial. So, Schrödinger's Colossus, Phaedra behind, Phaedra ahead. Here it's at least not in the fight, so I get a few chances to hit this window of... This is another thing that can happen, by the way. If I keep messing up the little frame window I get to hit the button, in the Gaius fight, Gaius can start attacking his own corpse, which is, you know, worrisome if you're trying to get the game into a non-glitchy state. So, and now I will start up the fight and try for the Phaedra launch, which is the first time, if it works out, where we use side jumps to our advantage, because physics, hopefully I can make it work, because it's one of the cooler and one of the more difficult tricks. There we go. So basically what happened just now is side jumps in this game are very weird, in the sense that they transfer all of the momentum that is happening. So by hitting that side jump in a very specific position and timing, I could basically line it up in a way where Phaedra's leg is moving upwards. And since Phaedra is quite a gigantic Colossus, there's a lot of force behind it, which I transferred directly to fly up all the way. You can imagine that usually the strategy would be a lot different. since the usual way is to lead Phaedra to a few tunnels, make Phaedra search for you, and then at some point Phaedra lowers its head and you can climb up. But this is a bit more stylish, and I'm happy this worked out first try, especially after Guy has failed a few times. But yeah, so that's Phaedra, Guy squad Valis down and 3 extra Colossi due to glitches. And continuing this trend, we will now prey on Celosia and go to Barba. And if you notice, this is the first time we actually skip Colossi in the overworld officially. I will do this in a little bit and then explain what I mean by that. And also, as you can see on the map, there's a few more Colossi present than those that we actually killed, which also shows they are dead on the map, out of order. So, preying on Celosia, returning to the map, doing the whole back and forth. It's also very, very good that I'm playing this on a PS5, because there's 4 loading screens in each of those, and I remember when I tried playing this on the PS4 standard, the loading times were abysmal. It doesn't matter for participating with the leaderboard, because we use in-game time, but it's just, you know, it's not pleasant to wait for minutes on each of the loading screens on the PS5. It's a lot faster. So, preying on Barba again, this time the usual way, because Barba's corpse is all the way out in the arena, so not beneficial. Resetting, and for Barba we will actually, you know, take the Dormant Sword with us, even though it's not on the path towards the Colossus. And I was very surprised when I found this out, but when the Japanese runner did this, it's still faster, even though it's quite a big detour. Since usually it takes like 3 stabs on each sigil for this Colossus, with the Dormant Sword it's 1. And since the Colossus can also shake a lot and waste time like that, the Dormant Sword is usually still just a tiny bit faster. If doing this suboptimally, it's a time loss, but you know, obviously I won't assume it will go suboptimally and take a slight time save with this one. So with the Dormant Sword we will go back towards Barba. Barba is a very cool Colossus because it has a lot of very interesting strategies. In the boss rush, which would fight all the Colossus in a row during in the time attacks, we would use physics manipulation to get on top of the Colossus. And this can still be a backup here, but a fun fact, in the any percent run, you can move as you enter the fight, while in the time attacks you can only move after a certain moment, so the timer has the time to start. And that makes a huge difference in the strategy, because there's a little glitch we will use with the camera. I'm not quite sure how it works. I assume it's something about the camera position and how Wander is during that cutscene. But if we skip the cutscene during a very specific moment, Wander will just spawn in the air, which will allow us to grab onto Barba's head directly, and it looks very bizarre when it happens. I think someone mentioned it's like a 4 or 5 frame window. After running a little bit, or trying to run a little bit of Pokemon, that's not bad at all, especially that since we have a visual cue, but I still miss it sometimes, so if I mess it up, we can look at the backup as well. So I look at it as a good thing, because then I can show off 2 different strats. Kind of like with Gaius earlier, where I wanted to show the alternative strat, which is a little faster with the way you spawn into a fight. But on the backup I use a full launch. Here it will be similar, unless I get it first try, which, well, let's see if I can get it. So, moving on. It's always kind of cool to see how beautiful the game looks in the PS4 version compared to like the PS2 and 3 version. One of the coolest ways to experience that is the all platforms run that I sometimes do, which is run the PS2 version into the PS3 version into the PS4 version to see all the differences live. Like, you wouldn't even notice the difference between the PS2 and PS3 until you actually play them side by side. The frame rate difference is a whole thing, and the loading time. And, so yeah. Let's get there directly. Now I'm waiting for a certain little dot on the wall. People are debating if the dot actually exists or not. I can assure you it exists, it's just not viewable on bigger screens. So some people that play on PC use the line on the left side as instead, but I like the dot a little more, so let's hope that worked. Yep, there we go, right on the beard. Using a few little regrabs to kind of glitch upwards instead of climbing, since that's faster. Doing one stab, and as you see, it's a one shot with the dormant sword instead of 3 stabs. Getting to the back, and that was pretty much perfect. And the back is what usually causes you to lose a lot of time, since you need 3 stabs and Barbo likes to shake a lot. But that went smoothly. So, as I'm counting this, we are at 9 Colossi in, 5 the usual way, 4 the glitchy way. Let's keep track further. So here I'm doing another classic one, where I'm praying away both times on the statues. Going to Zenobia first. I'm kinda sad that Zenobia isn't part of this run, but it's very understandable since it's one of the longer fights, as well as one of the furthest away. So it obviously makes sense to get rid of this one, but I personally like this Colossus the most. Because it has a few very cool strategies that I help to develop. A bit of glitchiness, a bit of interesting mechanics, and things that were found specifically for the PS4 version. And just a bit of chaos when it doesn't go the correct way and you have to run away of a very fast Colossus. But yeah, we won't see that in this run, since, you know, glitches. 9 Colossi in, so everything still looks correct. Now we'll pray on Kuromori, since that's the next one we will fight. I wonder if routing-wise we can actually optimize this. I'm pretty sure that this is as optimal as it gets, since we looked at the closest Colossi that are the fastest. But who knows, maybe the route will change or further glitches will be developed for this one, so things can change. Yeah, for this Colossus we will not pick up the Dormant Sword because it would be too much of a detour, and the usual fight is already quite quick. This is usually the easiest Colossus on normal mode on New Game Plus, specifically just because pretty much anyone can learn the speedrun strat for the full game runs in a few minutes. It's just about positioning, timing, and stabbing. On hard mode it's a different story, because there you have to be a lot more optimal to get to one cycle, since it's more than double the stab amount. But yeah, on normal it's quite relaxed. And this is also one of the Colossi that on the normal any percent or New Game Plus we actually do the intended way, just in an optimized manner. What I can definitely recommend though is if you are looking at this and you think to yourself, well, that's interesting, pretty cool game, I want to see more speedruns. What I recommend is definitely watching some of the individual levels, because those are like a whole different league on its own. Since you can reset each of the fights individually very quickly, people have gone beyond what's reasonable, you could even say, with optimizing those. Well, it's very impressive to watch, for sure, and the Kuromori fight specifically uses a very different strat, which is not consistent in a full game run, since it has to rely on the fastest cycle, which is kind of RNG. But yeah, the Colossus there is destroyed without using the bow, so if that sounds interesting to you, it's definitely worth a watch. If you go to speedrun.com individual levels, Hammerclaw currently has the world record, a very amazing individual level runner. And also just in general, Odawara has a few very cool, many actually very cool records, as well as the current boss rush world record, which I'm still trying to match and overtake. It will take a while because we got quite optimized on the boss rush. Also JK is very good at this game and has 2 IL world records, which are definitely worth a watch. But yeah. Let's continue. Oh, and I should mention Absol when it comes to individual level world records, as well as the world record to his category, actually. Absol, another Japanese runner that helped develop many of the IMG glitches with Higuchi and Odawara together. Which is quite impressive on its own, because I have no idea how he got to this point. So, I will try a little thing which usually doesn't work, but let's see. Ah, close. If you fall in a very specific angle, you can actually skip a lot of the fight by landing directly on the sigil, which is a bit faster. But yeah, nothing much to say here. I used a few cycle stabs there, which are a thing where I reset the stab animation and set up right away again, which works on Kuro and some others. What is it with whistling being a good speed strat? Whistling or weapon switches are a thing which reset Wander's speed to the highest speed immediately. So one of the optimal ways to move with Wander is jumping and then immediately whistling or weapon switching, because that way you kind of cancel the stumble animation. It's a little bit of an optimization. Doesn't save too much time, but might as well do it. Okay, now we will aggro forward to Argus. One thing which is kind of sad about this category specifically, it has a lot of the cool glitchy stuff, but sadly skips many of the interesting Colossi. Argus would be one of them, which has a few very cool strats, but oh well. See ya Argus, or rather Zenobia in this case, since it's always the Colossus right before that gets summoned away. Yeah, it's interesting. In Eco it's also about constantly shouting, which is quite irritating. But yeah, something about making noises, making you go fast. Wait, I'm a bit confused, give me a second. Okay, Dorman, sword into Bastaran. Thank god I have notes, because I got quite confused there for a second. So, this is the Colossus, which many people would like to skip, but in this category it's optimal to go for it. Technically you could go for another one by routing it differently, but going for Bastaran here is pretty much the fastest, as long as you hit the strat. You're picking up the Dormant Sword again and acting it away. One of the reasons why, for me personally, beating Absol's world record in this category is goddamn difficult is because his aggro positionings in between the sword pickups and when he's going to his statues and stuff was goddamn near perfect, and it's something I haven't really practiced too much. You might have noticed that I haven't reset the game yet, so it's still in the glitchy state where if I fought Bastion right away, things would collapse. But here we will use the Bastion corpse again. It's a bit out of the way, but less out of the way than the statue, I would assume, since I'm using Absol's routing for the most part, and Absol is very good at routing stuff. Maybe eventually, if I ever get the MTA boss rush record and have a full sweep of records, I could go for a big deep dive into looking into the exact route of the IMG run to see if I could beat Upsal at his own game, pretty much. But currently I have second place, and that's good enough. Running this category is more exhausting than the other ones, even though it's shorter, just because of the many little details you have to keep track of and optimize. I mean, to be fair, it's an easier run to run than, let's say, any % normal, because there's fewer colossi and fewer things to mess up on. But what I mean by, you know, more difficult is actually going for a world record, because there's fewer things I can actually gain an advantage on, especially since Upsal is already a very good player. As well as the whole little micromanagement, which becomes more important with these kind of categories. Kind of like with Boss Rush, where getting a Boss Rush record nowadays is pretty damn hard, just because so many difficult strats are implemented. You know, the shorter the run, the more difficult it gets. Optimize after a certain moment. Yeah, I'll just say physics. Let's see if I get it first try. I'm too lazy to explain the details, so let's just say physics. Didn't get the jump stat, but at least. Oh, come on, that was bullshit. But I got a plan, so this is fine. And Bass is down. I love the physics in this game and how broken they are. This was similar to Phaedra. A little bit easier than Phaedra, because the positioning is less precise, but still one of the more difficult tricks to hit. And if anyone played this game, they know that casually this Colossus is a goddamn nightmare. And even though the speedrun strat is also a nightmare, it's less of a nightmare for me personally. Once you get good at it, it's really less of a nightmare. There's also like a few category extensions in this game, which includes the intended speedrun, which I once created as a little joke, which became way bigger than I thought it would. But yeah, you can also read a rule set of multiple pages to play the game as intended, which shows the ridiculousness of it in a way. But it's also a fun way to play, especially if you're not used to all of the strategies. Just having a way to compete outside of the whole try hard, you know, speedrun kind of way, which in a way it goes against the whole thing of going fast, but at the same time it's all for fun, which is a nice thing to get people into the game and running. Because implementing all the strats immediately takes quite a while in this game. None of the tricks are easy. All of them take quite a bit of practice, and it can be quite irritating at first. Especially lining them up all together is still quite difficult even for me after God knows how many hours. Like 2,500 would be my best guess. Okay, we prayed on Malice, which gets Argus out of the picture, and now we will go towards Solosia. Solosia is a little cool one. It's one of the fast boys. And here, usually you'd think picking up the Dormant Sword isn't worth it because it's 2 stabs versus 1. It literally takes longer to pick up the Dormant Sword than it takes to take an extra jump step. But since after this we're done with the glitchy part of this run and going straight to the last boss, this is still worth it because you don't lose the Dormant Sword in the process, and on Malice, the last Colossus, it definitely saves quite a bit of time. So it's basically 2 Colossi for the price of 1 Dormant Sword pickup. Yeah, and here we will also use Colossus Corpse to get the game back to normal, and this is the last time I have to do this, and then if everything is correct, this is the second to last Colossus we fight. Another thing about this whole, you know, IMG stuff is that you can make even more glitches happen which are just not useful to the speedrun. One of those is if you're not doing any of the normalizations that I do in this run, it can lead to Wander teleporting around the map, which teleportation in this game is a big no-no. It just gets you into all kinds of glitchy states. You can actually warp from, I'm not sure if it was Wireless or Quad directed to Malice, but it makes the game all glitched and funky. It's like, you know, you see pixels appearing, disappearing, and all of a sudden you're in a different place, like as creepy as real-life teleportation probably would look like. And if you then finish Malice, the game just doesn't continue, so unfortunately we can't end the game with a crazy teleport either. So if you do it with the glitchy way, go directly to Malice, he's on vacation. If you teleport to him, he doesn't let you pass, so even though this game is even more broken than this, it doesn't let you beat it. Unless, you know, some certain flags are completed. I know someone tested these flags, so if someone found a way to make the flags activated right at the first Colossus, you could literally warp from Valis to the end sequence, but we're not Ocarina of Times yet, so people don't know how to do it, and we probably don't have the resources or knowledge to find something like that. If anyone is interested in experimenting with that, feel free. People in our community would surely appreciate it. As well as there's no game-breaking glitches in the any percent runs quite yet. There we still fight all the Colossi the normal, usual, traditional speedrun way. Yeah, this Colossus is afraid of fire, so we pick up a torch, pick up fire, and now we will put away the torch, so he's like, oh, no fire, I can run. And when I pick up the torch, he's like, oh no, fire, I have to fall down. Also kind of a little sequence break, even though fully intended and working as intended. In a way. Well, I guess not intended, but, you know, there's nothing broken about this. It just uses, you know, the triggers in an advantageous, fast way. And 1 jump step to finish it, instead of 2. And if I did everything correct and didn't mess anything up, this is about it. It's just 1 more Colossus left. One thing that we forgot to mention is the Pet the Horse incentive that is probably still going. If you have just about a couple minutes more to donate for me to pet the horse. Don't let that chance go by, because otherwise we won't be able to pet the horse anymore, to say it bluntly. So, yeah, going to Malice. The last one. Also one of the farthest away if you count the section after a certain cutscene. Okay, just double checked if Malice is currently there, and Malice returned from vacation. So he's there to fight us finally. He deemed us worthy after we glitched through all of these Colossi in an unintended way. This is actually one of the Colossi that still gives me nightmares, even though speedrun-wise it's... I guess after practicing a bit, it's like just above average, but definitely not one of the most difficult tricks. You know, it's kind of precise, but even if you mess it up, you can usually make it work anyway. But there's a thing called getting TikTak, which is named after me, and the only thing in this speedrun that is named after me, unfortunately, which is the act of failing at the last possible moment and ruining your world record pace or whatever, or PB pace. Because I have quite a history with Malice and failed quite a few world record runs, quite a few of PB runs. Even in marathons, I've had the weirdest things happen out of nowhere. Where, you know, I say I will prove myself, I will not get tic-tacked. But when I do, there was like one instance where during a marathon race, I would have gotten like second or third place. And then Malice just decided to swing me pretty much all the way back to the start. And Wander died, and I had to redo this whole section, which made me get dead last in that race. And another instance specifically where I was on clear world record pace, and Malice shot me in a way where Wander pixel perfectly glitched into a wall, and I couldn't get him out of there anymore, so I basically managed to get a soft lock in this game. So, I will once again ask about the Pet the Horse incentive. If no one informs me about any donations, there's just a few more, let's say 30 seconds before I cannot pet the horse anymore. Last chance, last opportunity. If there's any donations that come in late, I guess I can pet the horse on stream next time. Wake up for it. And the gate opened. This is a good sign that I didn't mess up on the route. Doing this at 6 AM, I'm very proud of myself. Okay. And the incentive is over. For everyone worrying, don't worry, aggro, the horse is not dead. I swear to God, it's actually not dead. It just takes a dive. There's fan art of aggro with a snorkel and paddles and stuff, doing the swim.
Oh God.
But yeah, in the end sequence of the game, you can see aggro returning. So don't worry, aggro is fine. Aggro is good at swimming and diving. Yeah, this is a very emotional moment in the game, but speedrunners are monsters and we don't get really affected as much anymore. Time to move on without aggro towards the last little boss that will hopefully not, or maybe, you know, it would be kind of funny if Malice decided to throw a curveball. It usually doesn't happen that much anymore because I practiced for goddamn hours because I was so pissed off after losing the record. So there shouldn't be anything happening, but you know, I said that before and then it still happens, so yeah. That softlock I was talking about, I'm the only person to ever get that softlock, and I got it twice, so it just shows that Malice doesn't like me in particular. Double rolls. Double roll. Double roll. Switching to Dormant Sword. Jumping around. And we will be starting the fight right now. Which you know, if you're wondering why this Colossus vacationing is such a weird thing, he's literally like stuck to the ground, but if you get here early with a glitch, he's literally not there. It's ridiculous. Here we will use, instead of the tunnels, which is intended, a bunch of whistles, rolls and stuff to avoid everything like in a Michael Bay movie just about. And it's actually kind of tricky to do that correctly. Involves a few, like, pretty accurate inputs, but here we are, going forward. No bolts hit me, which is a good thing. Switching to bow for the next part. Another funny thing, which is actually banned in the speedrun because it's so ridiculous, is you can dodge the rolls if you frame perfectly, like, item menu. We decided to ban it just because the item menu glitch, allowing it would cause a bunch of horrible things to happen to the speedrun, which are not only not fun at all, but also, like, boring to watch. So, there's unrestricted categories in the category extensions that literally no one runs. There's like one ballast run which uses it to get a second ahead by glitching the timer. And yeah. Wait, I'm doing this wrong. Holy moly, okay. 6 AM. I'm sorry I didn't drink a coffee, but I forgot where to go there for a second, so I have to do this all again. I wouldn't call this a full-on TikTak, but that was fully on me anyway, so it wasn't Miles causing it, it was literally me not going all the way there, and for some reason trying to shoot the arrow even though I don't need it anymore. But yeah, with this animation I can use with physics one last time to jump up directly here, skipping a bunch of puzzle things. And this should be it with 2 stabs, since the Dormant Sword is so goddamn overpowered. And that's the last Colossus, but not time yet. Time will be coming up shortly, after a little more of a sequence. Have TikTak? I don't know, usually TikTak involves Malice messing me up. But if I mess up on Malice, is it getting TikTaked or just me being TikTak, you know? That's a philosophical question if you ask me. And yeah, now comes a bunch of an ending sequence when it cutscenes that we will all skip. One thing you have to know is I'm turning into Dorman. If you're wondering how we got from point A to point B, play the game, I won't bother explaining, I'm too tired. Here we are, Dorman, the dark god of evilness, the horns. See, he has horns. Eco, huh? Eco? Get it? Reference? No? Because lore-wise, this is where we get the first eco-like thing, creature, person, half creature, half person. He has blue raspberry vape, and since I glitched his animation, he has also feet, because he's levitating in the air right now. This is not intended, but this is the most fun way to pass the time. There's literally nothing to do here besides not attack the guards and wait till the guards escape on their own. But a little bit of, you know, dormant feet and blue raspberry vape kind of thing. That's the content everyone has been looking for. The way the levitate works, I think, is if you move in the first possible second, you kind of glitch onto one of those guards, and then the game loads you in on a higher elevation. So as you see in the background, Dorman flying around. And time is coming up very soon as I am making my way towards the soup. The soup of holiness or something. Something that cleanses me from my dormant ways, even though I just became dormant. Now it's time to stop. It's time to stop. And... time. This was Shadow of the Colossus, New Game Plus IMG. I would like to shout out the Shadow of the Colossus and, in general, Team Eco community. We have a lovely server where, if you want to play any of the games, or just watch the little few events we do here and there, or run yourself, You can learn any of the 3 games, and the community is very lovely. You can learn Eco, you can learn Shadow, TLG, and we have a bunch of very, very cool members watching here, so thank you very much for all of you supporting me, even though late or early, depending on where you are. You can also watch my stream. I occasionally speedrun things, sometimes I also play other things, like Pokemon. Recently relearned and refreshed my Pokemon Red speedrun. But Shadow is always a staple, which I keep coming back to just because it's such a fun run and a beautiful game. But yeah, that's so much from me. Thank you for watching. If we have time, we can watch Agro's return the cutscene just to make sure if Agro returns this time as well. Otherwise, we can go on to the next run.
Thank you, TikTak. Do please stick around for the next run, which is me. Yeah, I'm the next run. I'm gonna be doing Final Fantasy 1. So yeah, stick around, and we'll see you in a little while. I'm gonna take a few minutes to get set up, and we'll be back with Final Fantasy.
Good luck with the
All
run.
right, thanks everybody.